For those about to rock, please keep it down. I've got a splitting headache.
Welcome back to HIVEMIND Unlimited.
And welcome to another episode of How Did It Age, where we watch old movies and see how they've aged with modern context. Today's movie is School of Rock. It came out in 2003 and it stars Jack Black.
It sure does, man. And this, I think we can spoil the video. This was the best thing that's ever happened to us.
It's the best one we've watched in this series so far, definitely.
It's unbelievable. It's directed by Richard Linklater, who we all love.
Yep.
Dazed and Confused. Everybody wants some.
Boyhood.
Scanner Darkly. We all love that one.
Waking Life.
Before Sunrise, After Midnight, in the evening, at lunchtime. All
Dawn FM.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing director. Written by Mike White, who's done other wonderful movies like Despicable Me 4.
Oh, yeah, and he also plays Ned Schneebly in this movie.
He does. I love when the writer casts themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome.
Does the writer pick who's in the movie?
Yeah, he could write himself in as a role.
Yeah, I guess he could.
And he created White Lotus, which was good for one season. So shout out Mike White.
Sarah Silverman is also in this movie, who used to be your Hollywood crush.
She did used to be that, and then I found myself my own nice Jewish girlfriend. I don't need you now, Sarah. Move along, Sarah.
Yeah, keep it pushing, Sarah.
Quit calling me Sarah. It's over for you, as they say in Hollywood.
And Miranda Cosgrove is in this movie as well.
A budding superstar.
Yeah, she's in Despicable Me 4 as well.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if Mike White, you know.
They've got a working relationship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This movie made a shit ton of money, no surprise. 131 against $35 million budget, so tons of cash. Made even more money on Broadway.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
After Andrew Lloyd Webber bought the rights to it and wrote the musical for it, I think it had 1,300 shows or something and made like over $160 million.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just awesome. Had a television series for a little while, 3 seasons of that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't very good, and rumored to have a second or a sequel coming, and doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah. It's got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 7.2 on IMDb, an 82 on Metacritic, and a 3.5 out of 4 from our favorite guy, Roger Ebert.
Shout out Raj. He loved it. He said, "Can you believe it? Comedies can be smart, touching, and funny all at the same time."
And I didn't know that Richard Linklater made this movie, and I was talking to my roommate Hunter about that last night, and he said he listened to a podcast where Richard Linklater was talking about making this and Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
And he said, these were gonna get made anyway, and I think I can do them the best. So it feels a little like different from kind of the art film stuff he was doing prior. And this was his, break into the mainstream. Not that Dazed and Confused wasn't like a big mainstream movie, but this and Bad News Bears, he just knew no matter what, those movies are getting made.
Yeah.
So let me try to make them as good as they can be.
Yeah, and one of them is great.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bad News Bears since I was a little kid, so I honestly have no idea.
The original's awesome, and I feel like that's what that movie falls victim to. It's just that it's trying to like live up to the magic of the 70s film, and that one's just like whatever.
So had you seen this movie before, and when?
Absolutely. I've seen it before. This is a classic flicking through cable. If it's on, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm so happy when I catch, a few of these scenes. If I get to see Jack Black and Roz at the bar, that scene, if I get to see the final performance, any of the classroom scenes of the instruction of teaching them music and stuff, just, the whole movie is just full of great fucking scenes.
Yeah, I saw this right when it came out and a lot throughout the years, but I do think it's been a decade since I've sat down and watched School of Rock.
Yeah, I probably haven't watched it front to end in a long time, but I've seen it, I feel like every year I see at least half of it.
Now, I think that we have a lot of the same best lines.
Yeah.
Because when we watched it together this time, every single time there was a great line, we both looked to our laptop and started typing. And I was like, we're going to have the same ones. Yeah. But at the beginning, when Ned is telling Dewey to sell his guitars to make rent, he has such a great line where he's like, would you tell Picasso to sell his guitars?
Yeah. Love that line.
Because, obviously the implied line is, would you tell Picasso to sell his paintbrush?
Right.
And instead he says, would you tell Picasso to sell his guitars? I also love when Dewey asks the class what rock and roll is about.
Oh, this is the best.
And one of the kids responds, scoring chicks. And the other girl goes, getting wasted? I love that because there's something about the vulgarity of the kids that I didn't remember. I thought of them as all these innocent whatever. They right away, they're cursing the whole time. Oh, yeah. They don't care.
Yeah, those are like a lot of my favorite lines are just like, the kids aren't great actors. Linklater went through like 1,000 auditions for kids, for musicians specifically.
Yeah, the only one with an acting history before this was Miranda Cosgrove. Yeah. Everybody else, he just picked people who were really good at instruments at a young age.
And it works because they're like not great or like trained actors, and Jack Black is just teeing them up, and then when they give these deadpan deliveries, it's just so funny. Like one of my favorite lines is when Tamika first sings for Jack Black after class, and she just has this death stare, and she's like, "Mama told me," and like when she's singing, it's like, is she all right? She's got like 1,000-yard stare.
She's very nervous throughout this whole movie to the actor who plays Tamika.
And it works.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're kids. They're supposed to be awkward and weird. And
The costume designer kid is the one who's got like the most attitude.
Totally.
"You're tacky and I hate you" is one of my favorite lines in this.
Definitely. I also love when, who's the kid who plays piano? I forget his name.
Liam, I think.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call him Liam. So sorry if I get that wrong. But Liam, when Dewey is kind of trying to get all of the kids to insult him.
Yeah.
Just on like he's the man. He's supposed to be the man in that moment. So it's like he wants them to disrespect authority.
Yes.
And he's the authority figure in this scenario. So they're all dissing him and he loves it. He's like, yes, come on, you know? And then it goes a little overboard when Liam just chimes in and says, "You're a fat loser and you have body odor."
Yeah, he like can't really get in on it.
And there's a pause, a perfect pause where then Dewey's just like, nice,
fine.
Sure.
I'll get into it in scenes, but his first classroom scene is so funny. First, he's telling the class just to be quiet because he has a hangover.
Yeah.
And they're like, "That means you're drunk." And he's like, "No, it means I was drunk last night." And then they're like, "Well, that means you're an alcoholic." And Freddie says, "You wouldn't come to work with a hangover unless you were an alcoholic. Dude, you got a disease."
That line's awesome. Because the idea that a 10-year-old understands that alcoholism is a disease.
Yeah. Dude, you got a disease.
That's a nuanced take. I think it's very funny.
And then, obviously, all of Joan Cusack's lines are just delivered with, like, she's just the uptight, you know, snuffy principal of this private school, and she's so good. And I love early on when she's handling discipline, it sets her tone when the kid is crying in front of her, and she goes, "Would you like a hug?" And the kid's like, "Ah!" Like scared of her because she's like incapable of being sweet and nice.
The way the kid runs out and gets the door too is such a funny little.
"Would you like a hug?" Yeah. I love that line. And then later, I love her line when they're finally at the bar. She's 2 sips of beer in and she's getting tipsy, and she's like primed up this big question for Dewey, Ned, and she's like, "How does your experience at Horace Green compare to the other schools you've taught at?" And then puts her hands down and is like waiting for this big answer. And he's like, "It's the best." And she's like, "You're just saying that."
Yeah.
It's like her biggest concern is how her school is perceived.
The other line that I love in that scene that she delivers is when she says, "If anything goes wrong, it's my head. It's my head in the smasher."
Head in the smasher.
I love that. It's so funny.
Yep. Love that. One of the most quotables for me is "There's always been nice pipes, Tamika."
Yep.
When Jack Black says that one, "Nice pipes, Tamika." Golden. And then when they're doing the audition and they come up, Miranda Cosgrove comes up with the story of them being sick, and Jack Black goes in to deliver it. He's like, "I volunteered down at St. Margarita's Hospital," and then they have a stick it to the maniosis.
Stick it to demoniosis. Yeah.
Just that's classic Jack Black stuff there.
Yeah, and speaking of classic Jack Black stuff, there is a lot of that in this movie. It's little reined in. Like, I feel like the setup of this movie allows him to work all of that stuff in a way that doesn't get tiring. Like, sometimes you can get a little exhausted of the Jack Black thing. I personally love it because he's got so much charisma. Mm-hmm. But in this movie specifically, it works because the character is set up to do those things. And I absolutely love a line that I did not remember where he's talking to all the other teachers and he's talking about getting first chair at the Philharmonic.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I didn't get it. Guess who did? Yo-Yo Ma's cousin, Little Nepotiz.
Little Nepotiz. Yeah, I wish there was like a few more of those scenes.
Totally.
All his scenes at the teacher's table at lunch are so funny. He's like, Josh, right? And the guy's like, Bob.
Yeah.
Like he's getting the names wrong. He's like, I'll tell you why. I hate tests. They're like, which test do you like? And he's like, neither. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, that's what makes this movie work too, is like, it's hard to believe the story.
Yeah.
But they make it very believable because Jack Black has this strange confidence about him that allows him to lie and get away with it. He like seems convincing in a way where people might be like, there's something weird going on with him at the school, but nobody could figure out exactly what he was doing, you know?
He's the borderline sociopath because he wants to be the front man of a rock band that's not famous, but that kind of ego allows him to really step into any role.
Yeah, he's got delusion already, and then he uses that to his advantage throughout.
Yeah, it's perfect. Last classic Jack Black line I want to mention is when he's recruiting them all into the band and he's talking to the girl who's going to be the bassist. He's like, you play cello, right? Check this out. Turn it on its side, play it like this. Cello, you got a bass.
Yeah.
That's so stupid, but it made me laugh.
Another line that I love is when Dewey is talking to the entire band, and it's the night before they're doing their big performance. And he tells them, he's like, no late night parties drinking tequila, trying to get lucky.
Yeah.
Just saying that to a bunch of 10-year-olds is awesome.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. My favorite line in the entire movie is when Roz, Joan Cusack's character, comes in and is like monitoring the class, and he's up at the board writing E equals MC squared, which is hilarious to me. That's the first thing he thought to be like teaching during it. And Roz is like, Miss Lemons said that she heard music coming from this classroom. And he's like, music? I haven't heard any music. And then he goes, uh-oh, Miss Lemons must be on crack, right, kids?
Yeah, he's like, uh-oh, kids, you know what that means. Miss Lemons must be on crack.
Yeah, he just says that she's on crack in front of a class of 10-year-olds. And Roz doesn't even notice.
Yeah, doesn't care. I think we're going to be hard-pressed to really find scenes that are bad.
Yeah.
I didn't really write any down that I was like, oh, that wouldn't be in there today or whatever. The only, the whole idea of him filling a van with kids and taking them downtown is like kind of strange, but the scene like still works. It's a great scene.
Yeah, I wrote down one scene in this entire thing, and I just said it's the line where he says like, I've touched your kids. Or like, your kids have touched me, and I'm pretty sure I've touched them too.
Yeah.
And it's like the implication that he's like a molester of some kind, with the whole setup of him hijacking a class full of kids and taking them on field trips and all that stuff, doesn't age super well. And I think you kind of need it a little bit just to play off the idea that he has been a very innocent actor.
Right.
At least in that regard. What he's doing is not like virtuous.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to use a class full of kids to make money to make rent. It's not like, oh, I'm saying he's the best guy ever, but I'm saying he's not doing anything beyond that that is truly sadistic or sinister or, predatory. But I think the implication there aged a little weird.
It's also hilarious though.
Yeah,
the
it's
parents'
funny.
reaction is so good. There's like a silence, and then it's like, oh my God, it's just horrific. And then the running out of the classroom, the sliding into the hallway.
He's holding guitars. Yeah,
that's just perfect. Yeah, all the classroom scenes are really, really good. I love the second day when he gets up and does the speech about the man. That is just a perfect scene. When the kids toss the insults back at him. I love when Rosalind is in the classroom and he does the nice math guitar. Math is a wonderful thing.
I also love that he says ass in that. Like he says he's get off your ass, let's do some math.
Yeah. Math.
Doesn't care.
Yeah.
Roz doesn't seem to care when he curses in front of the kid. Like it's a weird thing. She kind of like ignores a lot of what he does.
Yeah. And it's like normal addition at first, but then I love the posing of the question. 54 is 45 more, and number left is... And she's like, 9.
That's wrong. It's 8.
She's like, no, it's 9.
Yeah.
My favorite scene in the whole movie is when he takes Joan Cusack to the bar. Just that whole scene, seeing her like all pinched up and like nervous. And she's like, I've never been to this place before. I've never been to this side of town before.
Right.
And she's like asking the hippie, fuck, who is that actor? That's the waiter. I like recognized him. It's not Andy Dick, but it like might be.
I don't know.
It's like the hippie Portland looking waiter. And she's like, are you sure you don't have coffee? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure. And just gets 2 big beers. She hears Stevie Nicks and she kind of like loosens up and you see the Rosalind that once was.
Yeah.
You know, you get a glimpse into that. And then Jack Black kind of like hopes to get them on the field trip, is like hoping for the exception and is like pseudo manipulating her in that moment, you know, becoming her friend, and then drops her off. That is just like, I don't know why that scene has just always been my favorite.
I really, really like the weight conversation with Tamika. I was surprised how well that aged. It's very sweet.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a sweet moment where she's talking about how she, you know, she's afraid to get up in front of a bunch of people, not because necessarily she thinks she can't sing, but because she's worried about how she looks. Mm-hmm. And then Jack Black, you know, talks about Aretha Franklin, which
is so good.
Yeah, he's like, they want to party with Aretha.
Yeah, he's like, no one cares when she starts singing after her show. It's like everybody wants to party with Aretha.
I love that, but then also he's like, you know who else has got a little weight problem? Me. And then like talks about, and it's a very honest conversation. And he's like, and I'm sexy. I like to eat. Is that a crime? Like, I do love that. Just aging super, super well from the 2000s, because, I mean, Jack Black was in Shallow Hal. So, you know, that's another movie that if we did for this, I would say probably has not aged well.
Probably. Maybe it's sweet and I'm not remembering it right. But...
Right. Yeah. But it's nice to see a conversation about weight from that time being a positive one.
Absolutely.
Just a quick side note that I love is that Dewey's old band being a butt rock band the moment that he leaves the band. Like when they perform at the end and they're doing a butt rock song, I'm like, that's awesome. Because then you see that Jack Black was the X factor there, turning them into an exciting rock band.
Right.
And the moment he's gone, that inspiration has left, and now they're just doing butt rock.
Yeah, I love the scene when Spider, who's Dewey's replacement, is talking to Rosalind or Joan Cusack backstage, and he has that like leather sleeve strap on, and he has like that weird like mandala whatever tattoo, and he's just rubbing his V-line. He's like, "Are you in a band?" And she's like, "Actually, I'm the principal of a school," and he's like just checking himself out, and he's like kind of mumbles something, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, he can't even like talk. He's like a brainless buffoon.
And I love that he's barely in this movie, Spider, but people dress up for Halloween as Spider and Roz.
Yeah.
All the time. I see it every year because that is such a weird thing that he's wearing.
Yeah, it's just that weird little tension they have in that scene. It's like everybody's like, oh God, I hope that happens, you know?
Yeah. And I love, my favorite thing about this entire movie is that there's no love interest.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The love interest is rock and roll.
Yep.
And like that's the thing is Jack Black loves rock so much. He doesn't get distracted a single time. He doesn't like there's no like there's a woman in the crowd at the end who works at the school and Jack Black plays and then she's like, "You were so great," and you know whatever, all that stuff. There's none of that. Mm-hmm. The only romantic stuff that we get in this movie is that tense moment between Roz and Spider and the kind of argumentative relationship between Sarah Silverman and Mike White. Yeah. As Ned and I forget Sarah's name, but
Sarah Silverman,
Yeah, Ned and Sarah Silverman.
Why are you dating Sarah Silverman? She's so mean.
And I love also that she's like very, very attractive and cool and whatever. And Jack Black is just like, why are you dating her? To Ned, you know? It's very funny.
Yeah, and I think, you know, any other writer could have easily done a Rosalind Dewey kind of, you know.
Totally.
He breaks down her walls, learns that she used to be a rocker too. Like all those pieces are right there, but Dewey's whole motive the whole time is just to get the kids on this field trip, which is the mask for the Battle of the Bands. Like his only interest in really breaking down Joan Cusack's walls are to get the kids to the show. He's not like interested in her romantically at all, which is awesome.
And the macro on that is that his whole thing is just not selling out. Yeah. His idea is, I want to rock for a living.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Yep.
And so I will find any way to turn whatever my money-making engine is, I'm going to make that rock and roll.
Yep.
Whether that's working at a school or that's just being in a band or whatever. He needs the rent And then he's like, now I've been inspired that I just want to make the best band I can out of these 10-year-olds.
Yeah, it's nice. It is like the children at the center of it that keep the innocence of this movie really like the key, and then allows Jack Black to be childish, which his brand of comedy is, but then, to use music as another facility for laughs the whole way through. Last scene I want to shout out is when Zach premieres his song.
Yeah.
And does the Bob Dylan voice. It's so awesome.
It's so funny.
It's like, yeah, I'm not much of a singer. Baby, we were getting straight A's. He just does like a...
Now we're stuck in the dumb days.
Yeah, it's like an exact Bob Dylan voice. It's just perfect.
The plot hole I was going to bring up is obviously this movie is very believable throughout. And the unbelievable part where you kind of suspend your doubt at the end is just that he doesn't face any consequences for this.
Yeah, of course.
He would have gotten like kidnapping charges. I mean, he took 20 kids in a van downtown. Like and under false pretenses. You can't even go in a classroom as an adult under false pretenses and not face legal consequences. But, you kind of submit to he's earned that. The movie has earned that by that point to just celebrate the music that has been made and the way he inspired the class and all that stuff. You kind of give that up. And I notice a similarity to Mrs. Doubtfire in that way, where it's like that movie should end with an arrest. Both of these movies should end with the main character being arrested.
Well, we got to do that movie.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But it's like, you kind of submit to the sweetness at the core of it and allow it to just be unbelievable at the end.
Yep. Also, big plot hole. No Battle of the Bands gives out 20 racks.
Oh, no.
2003 money, too?
Yeah.
That's $500,000.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's crazy.
It's a big check, and they're like, Battle of the Bands, which is also sold out.
Oh, yeah.
Sold out theater and a $20,000 check.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so nuts.
Not much would have to change, but naturally some of the rock references would be different.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, just like the landscape of rock has completely changed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, that nostalgia for the 70s and even the early 80s that this has would definitely be a little bit different.
Yeah, because a lot of those figures just aren't as beloved, is what you're saying, kind of?
Yeah, but also I just think the way that we look at that era, like this era, 2003, in rock is not like... I don't know, like rock now is even more dead than it was then in some ways, at least in the mainstream.
For sure.
I mean, there's a lot of great rock music being made right now. I'm just saying, like, in the zeitgeist, it's hard to even look at stuff from the 2000s and be like, well, that's all shit.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we have this, like, the golden days of rock are the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It's like... I don't know. There's just a different way that we talk about rock and roll.
Yeah, don't think it has to be that different. Maybe, I don't know. It's good. It's perfect, honestly.
Yeah,
it's aged so well.
It's timeless. Yeah, it's pretty timeless.
It's 21 years old.
Yeah.
It's really good. I was like begging to find a hole in it, to be like, of course they would have done that. And it stands up, man.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's Richard Linklater, man.
The Link.
He wanted it to be very believable. That was his thing about this movie. He's like, I want you to believe every single part of this movie until the very end.
Yeah. Maybe he wouldn't cast some of the kids in his class as groupies.
Oh, yeah. I'd forgot about that.
Yeah.
That did age poorly.
That's not great. He's like, no, groupies are part of the band.
Yeah.
And Miranda Cosgrove's like, last night I looked up what groupies are. They're sluts.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
That was very funny, though.
Yeah, funny line, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, for him to call them the groupies is
like,
definitely weird.
Yeah, that hasn't aged great. Well, I guess they were kind of the age of the groupies of like 80s bands and stuff, so it kind of works.
Yeah.
They were kids.
Right, yeah. No, totally. I got you, man.
Because the rock stars of the 70s and 80s had relationships with children.
Say Drake.
My recast would be Jamie Foxx as the teacher, and I have two alternative things here. One could be a timepiece, and it's the 50s, and he teaches them jazz.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
It's a smoky classroom, and he's like, Zabadaha, you know, he's like,
kind of like Whiplash meets School of Rock.
Exactly.
Okay.
The other one's not a timepiece, and he teaches the phone-addicted kids how to make beats.
Yeah. I actually did think of that, and I was like, who would be good for that?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if Jamie Foxx is good for that. He's great for the timepiece. He's great at jazz. We know that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe Kenny Beats.
Yeah, Kenny Beats. I like that.
Yeah.
My recast is strangely similar. I said it's Tim Robinson,
Nice.
and the kids are his improv troupe for an improv contest. And the movie would be called Yes and?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes and question mark.
Yeah.
And it's still in the Rolling Stone font.
That's perfect.
I would love to see Tim Robinson
Oh, yeah.
and a group of 10-year-olds. Like he's commanding them the same way Jack Black is, just yelling in their faces.
Screaming at them.
I think it would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Probably the most important and conversation we can have around a soundtrack for any movie we've watched yet.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, there's all like the improv Jack Black songs. Do you have a favorite one of those?
The one where he's like, the legend of the rent is way past due.
Yes.
That song.
That whole moment, it starts so small and he's in a land before the time.
Yeah.
The legend of the rent was way past due. Yeah, that is so cool. And he's like, you know, he's constantly like ad-libbing where the instruments are gonna go. Bass solo,
Yeah.
That is my favorite like Jack Black improv song moment. But then there's some other crazy tracks that are just in this soundtrack. I love Bonzo Goes to Bitburg.
Yeah, the Ramones, yeah.
That's like the first song that gets played in the movie, and it's in the montage of him kind of teaching them rock, which is a great Linklater moment too, instead of like wasting too much time on that, which I feel like you could have got hung up on. It's just, you know, a classic Ramones song, and then like AC/DC guys spinning on the floor. They're just watching all the clips of everyone, and then it's like, boom, when that song's over, the kids now kind of understand rock. Freddie's got his sleeves up. He's a punk.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of gone their own direction.
Yeah, I mean, and it also, you need montages to believe that these kids learned how to play rock music within 3 weeks,
Right.
well enough to perform at Battle of the
Yeah.
Bands. That's another part that you have to suspend your doubt.
It does help that they're really smart kids and that they're classically trained.
Yeah, totally.
So it's just kind of like breaking them out of the clean classical style and getting them to, you know, play rock.
And that they're at such a prestigious school,
Right.
too. Like, you believe that their parents have had them in lessons since they were
Yes.
little kids.
You believe
know?
they're super capable.
Yeah.
I forget what Zach's dad in that scene where Jack Black is like, you know, finding out that his home's a little broken, that his dad's a dick, basically. He's like, and when you play music, only play what the name of the instructor, the dad says, is so ridiculous. It's like something cone. It's like Shit's Cone or something. He's like, only play what Shit's Cone teaches you. It's like, what the fuck? Why is that in there? Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, which they had to fight to get in this movie. They actually made a full video. We watched this yesterday. If you watch Jack Black, like, you know, the Vanity Fair or GQ, whatever it is, where he talks about his most iconic roles, he said that they literally made a pitch video where they sang and sent it to Led Zeppelin to try to get them to allow them to use Immigrant Song.
Yeah, because Linklater really wanted to use either that song or another Led Zeppelin song in Dazed and Confused and had a really hard time.
Yeah.
And just famously, Led Zeppelin doesn't like
license.
Doesn't let their music out into any movie.
Yeah.
And that's a great scene when they're coming back from the audition. And yeah. And it daps up Miranda Cosgrove.
Yep.
And then the final song, we learned, it has a really cool story.
Totally.
Jack Black was like struggling to write the final song. They're like all the way through production. It's like the last thing they need. He goes out to see the Strokes in Hollywood, and the band that opened for them, Mooney Suzuki, old school rock band, like exactly in the vein of Jack Black's style. And he was really inspired by them. And backstage, just like asked them, it's like, you guys think you could, you know, write this for this? Like explain the situation to him. And he said they responded like real cool. It was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a crack. and gave him his number, and like the next day got the song back, and it was just like perfect. And that's such a movie magic story.
Yeah, he said he cried when he listened to it.
It's just perfect. It's so cool. It's like the opener for the Strokes wrote that while he was having like brain block writing that. It's just perfect.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And what a bag for Mooney Suzuki, who I'm sure is still a great band, but that is the most money they've ever made ever.
That's the first time I've ever heard their name.
Right.
And so, and I hope they're doing very well.
Sure, no ill will, but like to walk into that, like Jack Black appears to you and is like, about to make a classic movie with Richard Linklater. You think you got it? I'll give it a shot. And then boom. Like they get a check from that every week still, every month.
Yeah, that's great.
It's awesome. Really excellent soundtrack. Jack Black is low-key a musical genius.
Oh, yeah.
His like impromptu improv skills are just like pretty unparalleled.
I will say something that you brought up to me yesterday is that all of the instruments in the movie are actually played by all of the kids.
Yep.
The only fake thing they have is Jack Black's guitar solos.
Yeah, he does all the chords and all, when he's playing with Zach in the classroom, showing him all the rock songs. But anytime he's soloing on stage, he's not playing.
Yeah, they dubbed that over.
Yeah.
Which I think is very funny that a bunch of 10-year-olds, they're like, everything, they got it.
Yeah.
Jack, we'll make it happen for you. Yeah, we'll handle it in post.
Just move your fingers around, buddy. It's cool.
Yeah. 110%, the most of any movie that we've watched in this series so far.
Yeah, the only person I wouldn't recommend it to is a heartless worm.
Yeah.
Like a cold loser who has no heart and is a worm and isn't even a person.
I thought about this and I was like, I think that if you are a young person watching this right now, this could single-handedly get you into old rock music as well. It really does give you an appreciation. There's such a charisma behind Jack Black that if you like comedy, you'll leave this movie also having an appreciation for rock music.
Totally.
If you grew up listening to mostly hip-hop or mostly dance music or just kind of pop music that's on the radio or rock of now and you don't necessarily dig back and find old stuff, it does make me like, I was leaving yesterday, I was like, I kind of want to listen to Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Just... Or like put on an old Ramones album or something. Like there's something about it that makes you feel like, no, that is cool and funny and it doesn't have to be so serious.
And you forget, I think it's easier now than ever to forget like the original rebellious sentiment of rock and roll that is so embodied by Jack Black's character. And like that's, the foundation of that genre was anti-authority, was punk, OG rock and roll, just like encapsulated all that. And I think nowadays we attach those sentiments to other genres and put them in other places.
Specifically rap music.
Yeah, exactly.
Rap music is the most rebellious art form currently. It's the most potent. And I think that it was then too. The 80s and 90s was a super rebellious art form as well. But that's what the 70s were in rock and roll. It was like, no, we're not going to play by the rules.
And that's like the character of the mid-30s guy who's nostalgic for those older times.
Yeah. Existed
way more now because now that guy's 60, 70 years old.
And I do like the message also that they work into it where Freddie's like smoking or like in the van with the other band while they're smoking cigarettes. And he's like, rock's not about getting loaded and like, getting messed up. It's just about the music.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that in scenes because I think that is such a great moment. Because then it's like, Jack Black's character has flipped too. He chews out the slacker rockers. It's like, you are setting a bad example for this boy is 10. And they're like, we're just chilling.
Yeah.
He chews them out and is like, this isn't what it's about.
And it's cool that you see that arc happen because the first day of class, he's talking about how he's hungover.
Right.
And then he's like, rock is not about getting wasted. Rock is about this, blah, blah, blah. You're setting a bad example. He's grown up a lot throughout this experience.
He says, Freddie James. Get out of here. He uses his middle name.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yep. Biggest one yet, I think, for me. 4 stars.
Yeah?
4 stars, and I said, I think this ruined Jack Black's career.
Explain that to me.
He's so legitimized after this movie that he becomes Jumanji, King Kong, Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, he did Nacho Libre, which people like.
Yeah, Nacho Libre is like the last kind of in the OG Jack Black pocket.
I will say, I love him in that one rom-com that he did. It's like a house swap.
Yeah.
He goes to like England or something. I think it's called it might be called Christmas Day or something. It's
it rings a bell.
Something like that. I did like him in that. He's good in a rom-com, man. He's so charming.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the superstardom it launched him into kind of, we lose the sweetness of those early Jack Black movies.
I think he just retains it as a person, though.
Yes, he does.
He's like Will Ferrell. Like, every time I see him, I love just listening to him talk.
Yeah.
I love seeing what he does. He's such a positive, humble guy, too. There's I don't know. I get what you're saying, though. It's like, it not ruined his career. This is just the peak.
Exactly. This is apex for him.
Yeah. I gave it 4.5 stars.
Oh, almost a 5-banger.
It is so perfect.
Yeah.
And I said, one of the most romantic movies I've ever seen. All about one man's unconditional love for rock and roll.
That's nice, man. I genuinely had chills yesterday at the last performance.
Yeah.
I was like overcome with emotion. I was like, oh my God, it's so good. Like, I just loved it.
Yeah.
Had chills. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So,
can we top it?
Let's find out. Let us know what movie we should do next. If you want to see what movie we're doing next a week ahead of time so you can watch it before these videos come out, join our Patreon. It's only $5 a month. Or become a member on YouTube for also only $5 a month over on the main channel, HIVEMIND. But let us know what you thought of School of Rock. Let us know if you watched it for the first time because of this. I would love to hear those stories.
Yes.
And let us know what you think of Graydon's hair in this episode down in the comment section.
What? Does it look bad?
No, I think it looks great. That's the reason. I think it looks awesome. I just want to see if anybody...
Is it too poofy?
No, I think it looks awesome. All right, this has been HIVEMIND Unlimited. We love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye. Hit the road, Jack Black, and don't you come back no more. I do wonder if Jack Black literally did that for the guitar solos that had to be played for him. Like, he was like, I want it to be like... Yeah, he's very Bobby McFerrin with it, you know?
Yeah, he's a scatter.
Yeah, an OG beatboxer.
Scat.